When my daughter-in-law told me to leave, I smiled instead of crying. I do not know why I smiled. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was shock. Or maybe it was because I had spent my whole life holding my tears inside, and that day was no different. She stood in the kitchen doorway. The afternoon light was falling across the floor. The house smelled like rice and fried onions. It was a normal day, a quiet day, but her words were not quiet. "I think it would be better if you found somewhere else to stay," she said. Not loud, not cruel, just firm. My son was sitting at the dining table. He did not look at me. He kept his eyes on his phone. I felt something heavy in my chest. Not anger, not even pain at first, just something heavy, like the air had changed. I wiped my hands on my apron. I nodded. "If that is what you want," I said softly. And that was the day my life changed again. I moved into my son's house 3 years earlier. After my husband passed away, the house I had lived in for 32 years felt too big. Every room held memories. His slippers near the bed, his favorite chair by the window, the sound of his cough in the mornings. The silence was louder than any noise. My son, Daniel, came to visit me one Sunday afternoon. He sat across from me and held my hands. "Mom," he said, "come live with us. You shouldn't be alone." His wife, Leela, nodded beside him. She smiled, but it was a small smile. "We have the spare room," she said. "It makes sense." I did not want to be a burden. I had always been the strong one, the one who cooked, cleaned, solved problems. But I was tired of eating dinner alone, so I agreed. The first few months were peaceful. I woke up early and made breakfast. I packed Daniel's lunch, even though he told me I did not have to. I folded laundry. I watered the plants. I tried to stay useful. Leela worked from home. She had meetings in the bedroom office. She liked things neat and quiet. I learned to walk softly down the hallway. We were polite to each other. "Good morning," she would say. "Good morning," I would answer. We were not close, but we were not enemies either. When my grandson, Ethan, came home from school, he would run into my arms. "Grandma," he would shout. Those were my favorite moments. I would help him with homework. We would sit at the kitchen table. He would tell me about his day. I felt needed again. At night, we all ate dinner together. Daniel talked about work. Leela talked about her projects. I listened more than I spoke. I did not want to interfere. Sometimes I caught Leela watching me. Not angry, just thoughtful, like she was measuring something. I tried harder to be invisible. I cleaned without being asked. I cooked meals the way she liked. I folded towels the way she preferred. Still, small cracks began to show. One evening, I rearranged the kitchen cabinets. Only a little. I thought it would be easier. The next morning, Leela stood very still in front of the cupboard. "Did you move the plates?" she asked. "Yes," I said gently. "I thought." "I had them in a system," she said. Her voice was calm but tight. "I'm sorry," I whispered. It was a small thing, but after that, I asked before touching anything. Little by little, I began to feel like a guest in the house where I lived. Time has a quiet way of changing people. At first, Lila and I shared the kitchen easily, but slowly she began cooking more herself. She told me I did not need to make dinner every day. "I've got it," she would say. So I stepped back. Then she started ordering groceries online. I used to walk to the market and pick fresh vegetables. I enjoyed that walk, but she said it saved time, so I stopped going. I noticed she locked her office door during meetings. Before, she left it open. One afternoon, I heard her telling Daniel in a low voice, "I just need more space." I pretended not to hear. I asked Daniel once, quietly, when Lila was not home, "Is everything okay?" He sighed. "Mom, she's just adjusting. It's hard having another adult in the house." Another adult. The words stung more than I expected. I was not just another adult. I was his mother. But I smiled and said, "I understand." I began spending more time in my room. I read old books, I looked at photo albums, I watched the rain through the window. Ethan still came to me. He would sit on my bed and tell me stories. One night he asked, "Grandma, are you sad?" I touched his hair. "Why would you think that? You don't laugh as much." Children see everything. I forced a smile. "I'm just tired, sweetheart." The tension grew in quiet ways. Lila began correcting me in front of Ethan. "Mom, we don't give him sweets before dinner," she would say. "Mom, he needs to finish homework before TV." She called me Mom, but it felt formal, distant. I started to feel like I was doing everything wrong. One evening, Daniel came home late. He looked exhausted. Lila was waiting at the table. They did not know I was in the hallway. "This can't go on," she said softly. "She's my mother," Daniel replied. "I know, but this is our home." Our home. I went back to my room before they could see me. That night, I lay awake. I thought about the house I left behind, the garden, the quiet porch. I told myself I should be grateful. I had a roof, I had family. Still, something inside me felt misplaced. A week later, Lila asked me to sit down with her. Daniel was there too. The air felt heavy again. She folded her hands. "I think we need to talk about arrangements," she said carefully. My heart beat fast, but my face stayed calm. "What kind of arrangements?" I asked. "I feel like I don't have my own space," she said. "I respect you, but I need our home to feel like ours again." Daniel stared at the table. I looked at my son. He would not meet my eyes. That was when I understood. The decision had already been made. The day she asked me to leave was strangely quiet. No shouting, no insults, just calm words that cut deep. "I think it would be better if you found somewhere else to stay." That was all. I nodded. "Of course." Daniel finally spoke. "Mom, it's not like that. We think you might be happier somewhere more suited to you." More suited to me? I wanted to ask what that meant. Was I too old, too present, too alive? But I did not ask. Instead, I said, "I understand." I went to my room and closed the door softly. I opened the closet and took out my suitcase, the same one I had brought 3 years ago. I folded my clothes slowly. Each shirt felt heavier than it should. I picked up a photo of my husband and me. I pressed it to my chest. "I guess it's just us again," I whispered. There was a knock. It was Ethan. "Grandma, are you going somewhere?" I knelt down. "Yes, sweetheart, just for a while." Did I do something wrong? My heart broke. No, never. He hugged me tightly. I held him longer than usual. That evening, Daniel drove me to a small apartment across town. He had already arranged it. The place was clean, simple, quiet. "I'll be visiting," he said. I nodded. He hugged me quickly and left. When the door closed, the silence returned. But it felt different this time. It was not just grief for my husband. It was grief for the living. I sat on the edge of the bed and let the tears come. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. The first weeks alone were hard. I missed Ethan's laughter. I missed the sound of dishes in the kitchen. Even the tension had been something. Now there was only stillness. But slowly I began to build small routines. I found a park nearby. I walked there every morning. I joined a community center for seniors. At first, I only watched. Then I started talking. I met a woman named Clara. She had also moved out of her son's house. We shared tea and stories. "I thought I failed," she told me one afternoon. "Me too," I said. But maybe we had not failed. Maybe life had simply moved in a different direction. One Sunday, There was a knock on my door. It was Daniel. He looked tired. "Mom," he said quietly, "I'm sorry." I invited him in. He sat at the small kitchen table. "She didn't want it to hurt you," he said, "but I didn't stand up for you the way I should have." I listened. "I should have handled it better," he added. I looked at my son. He was no longer the little boy who held my hand. He was a man with his own struggles. "I don't want you to choose between us," I said softly. He looked at me with wet eyes. "I never meant to." We talked for a long time, calmly, honestly. A week later, Leela came too. She stood awkwardly in my doorway. "I'm sorry," she said. "I felt overwhelmed. I didn't know how to say it without hurting you." I studied her face. She looked sincere, younger than I remembered. "I never wanted to take your place," I told her. She nodded. "I know that now." We did not become best friends, but something softened between us. Ethan began visiting every Saturday. He would run into my apartment and laugh again. "Grandma, your place smells like cookies," he would say. I baked just for him. Life is strange. Sometimes love does not look like staying under the same roof. Sometimes love means stepping back. The day my daughter-in-law asked me to leave felt like rejection. It felt like I was no longer needed. But now I see it differently. I needed to find myself again, not just as a mother, not just as a wife, but as a woman on her own. Daniel visits often. Leela calls to check on me. Ethan still hugs me tightly. We are not perfect, but we are learning. I sit by my window now and watch the sunset. The sky turns soft orange and pink. I think about that day in the kitchen. If I could go back, I would still smile. Not because it did not hurt, but because sometimes letting go with grace is stronger than holding on with pride. And sometimes leaving a house does not mean leaving a family. It just means finding a new way to belong.